Yeah, the wide receiver group as well appears to be more stable than it's been and potentially more explosive and dynamic than it's been in quite some time. But it's been difficult in the past to evaluate the wide receivers because of the quarterback situation. So obviously, Tyrie Cleveland didn't put up big numbers in regards to receptions, but he showed us on occasion the explosiveness. You mentioned Antonio Callaway, obviously the headliner. So was it pretty cut and dry that they're the two guys on the field? Is Josh Hammond also most likely a third or fourth guy?
Third or fourth guy, I think you still have to go Brandon Powell just from what we've seen the last couple of years. But also they get Dre Massey back, who was going to be a big part of the offense, and even bigger than I really thought to believe after how much Jim McElwain talked about him in his spring press conference last week. He was saying how many packages they had for Powell, and it even sounded like maybe some out of a quarterback position where they maybe had some wildcat stuff run in. He was going to have play in the backfield. He was going to be this kind of all-purpose guy that I think we kind of saw Jim McElwain let Antonio Callaway do toward the end of last year, just trying to get him involved any way possible. Dre Massey was going to be that guy before he got injured the first kickoff of the season last year. So we heard last spring how he was coming on. Massey had a really good spring game, helped the quarterbacks out. But Mark, you were right. It's led by Antonio Callaway. And we have to remember he was not an early enrollee his freshman year, and he was in some trouble this time last year. So this is Antonio Callaway's first spring in a Gator uniform. It's really important for Felipe Franks and Kyle Trask to have their number one receiver on the field with them, going through all these workouts and going through all these drills that they're going to be going through for spring. So you mentioned Tyrie Cleveland, how I think I've labeled on your show, he's going to be, to me, an SEC breakout player next year. Most Gator fans also see that it wouldn't be a big surprise to see Tyrie Cleveland as that big breakout. Josh Hammond will be counted on. Freddie Swain will miss spring, so he was another option. It was Tyrie Cleveland, Josh Hammond, Freddie Swain last year as a crew of freshmen that came in and played. So of course those guys have to get some more reps, but Freddie Swain will miss his spring. So, and I mentioned Brandon Powell, he was a reliable option as well. So you mentioned coming into this how different as well the wide receiver core looks compared to offensive line as well. That's two big time positions Jim McElwain has completely transformed his time in Gainesville.
So I'm just curious, Dave. Brandon Powell, you mentioned 45 catches, but only 8.5 yards per pass reception. Is that a lot of the jet sweep stuff, the underneath screens, the slip screens, that kind of stuff that just didn't generate a big offense for him?
That is most of it. And he was also kind of, if Florida was lined up in a, trying to convert a third and short, and maybe, like your third and fourth, third and five range, he was also the guy who would be your first down maker, who would get to the chains and get a first down by a yard or two. So he was the guy, who they counted on to move the chains out of the slot. But you're right, even he had a lot of screen passes that he didn't necessarily couldn't break, had some trouble there. I see potential with Brandon Powell, but it's been kind of 2 seasons now where he's just not consistent in the big play department. And that's what I'd like to see him maybe try and work on. But he's kind of, besides Antonio Callaway, was the next biggest threat in this receiving core. So if Tyrie Cleveland can come in as another option on the outside with Antonio Callaway to be 2 big-time options, that can leave Brandon Powell to make some big plays. And the biggest play I remember 2 years ago in the Ole Miss game where he, caught kind of a drag route and then took it to the house. Those are the type of plays that we're looking for from Brandon Powell. So if Florida can get Antonio Callaway and Tyrie Cleveland with working great on the outside with Felipe Franks or Kyle Trask, that can leave some things in the middle for Brandon Powell to make some bigger plays.